My guest today is animation director Laura Quinn Geyer, whose love of mixed media and bold colors, versatile style, but loves sharing hopeful stories to delight the whole family. Now, she grew up on the family farm in Cornwall, England, making home videos and building bale forts. A love of art and math led her to study animation at Savannah College of Art and Design before working on animations and live actions in New York City and currently in London. Now, collaborating closely with directors and supervisors to visualize films and commercials have been invaluable experience as she now directs. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome animation director Laura Quinn Geyer and her amazing animated short film, Lost Marble, to the show. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to talk and yeah, thank you for having us. Well,
Absolutely. And I see that you have a wonderful little sidekick, and I guess they have enjoyed your film, Lost Marble.
yeah, it's so fun actually. Like she's just getting to the stage where she does actually kind of, connect and, you know, keeps her attention the whole way through, though I'm not sure she gets all the deep and meaningful bits,
Uh,
quite yet.
well, what led you into the world of animation?
Oh, like I always really loved drawing. Also really loved like always solving logic problems, and I think animation's just such a good combination of the two. Kind of my like mathy physics brain and art brain. And I think the first time that I really realized that this was like something that people actually did was watching Toy Story, and then it was on the VHS. So the like making of was afterwards, and then just seeing that people made these stories and like the work that goes into it, but the magic that comes out the other end, it just blew my mind. So it's always been something that I've thought about as I've grown up. And yeah, and I'm really honored to be in the industry now and being able to make stories too.
Well, I saw that you were the concept artist assistant on the blockbuster film Beauty and the Beast. What was it like working on such a project?
Yeah, so I was just it was a small, you're a very small cog in a big machine. So I was assisting another concept artist who was designing the castle. And honestly, that was a bit of a dream come true because that's like a film that I've always loved watching. And that incredible architecture and the thought that went into building the castle, all these like really ornate Rococo designs. So I was kind of doing some sculpts for that. And they also like 3D printed a lot of the actual like 3D stuff that we were making. So that was really incredible that you make something on a computer and then it just gets, or not 3D printed, 3D milled. Slightly different process, but sorry.
What? Well, I also noticed too that you were the visualization artist on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and ISS. For the audience out there, what is a visualization artist?
Yeah, so I was doing both. I guess the shorthand is previs and sometimes postvis. And so previs is often you're given the script and it's all often work in progress, and there might be it might get to a part in the script where it says and then they have a fight, and you have to work out what happens in that fight, and you can't be too precious about what you're working on because it might get thrown out tomorrow. They might change the script tomorrow, but we'll do really quick like animation, so it'll all be 3D. You'll have sets as like laid out as accurately as you can, um, and so yeah, it's almost like I like thinking of it as like 3D storyboards. Um, so you get a much better idea of how it's going to look. So then that will be a template that goes to both the visual effects team and the on-set team to make it happen really, and also marry the visual effects and the live action shoot. So
So,
yeah,
so in that capacity, is it kind of like the actors, certain scenes end up on the cutting room floor?
sorry, explain your question
I
again.
said, with a visualization artist, you're
Mm-hmm.
going by the script, but like you said, it could change tomorrow. So does that mean some of the work
Mm.
that you do could just end up on the cutting room floor?
Yeah, very much so. It happens daily, honestly. You might do 10 different variations of a scene, and some of them won't even go to the director. You'll show it to the supervisor, and then they'll be like, can you change this? And then it'll go to the that'll be the previous supervisor, go to the visual effects supervisor, and then it might get through to the director, and then the director might say, "Oh, I've actually storyboarded this in a different way now. Maybe we should do it differently." So it's it's fun because I get the chance to you get the chance to make lots of sequences and reiterate, see what's working, see what isn't. So that's why it's been a really great opportunity now directing things, because you get these little mini sequences that you get to play with, and even though it might not make it to the final cut, you see the film 3, 4 years later sometimes, when it does actually come out, because it has to have gone, it has to have been shot after that, and then all the visual effects will happen. So I don't see it for a long time, and then it's really interesting to see where it got to, what stayed, what didn't.
Wow, people still don't understand how long animation actually takes when it comes to
Yeah.
film. And yeah, I've even talked to people who have done, like you did. So an animated short film where you have a live action short film that can take 3, 4 days to film. But then with animation, it can take 10 months. So
Mm.
let's talk about this absolute delightful animated short film you did called Lost Marble. Out of all the films that I've seen this year, this one instantly put a smile on my face. So, what's the story behind it?
Yeah. So it's been one that's brewing for a while, and as you said, animation takes a while to make as well. Um, so it was during COVID really that I had the idea, and we were all in a kind of uncertain place. It's like things were changing daily. We were living in London, and the rules seemed to be changing every couple of days. You'd always be listening to the news to see, like, okay, what are we allowed to do tomorrow? Can we go for a walk in the park or not? And I've always loved making marble runs, like as a child and as a grown up, let's be honest. Um, and I just thought it'd be fun to, I guess, visualize what we were all kind of going through, that feeling of like not knowing what's going to happen next. You see a goal in front of you and you expect it to be easy, and then you get thrown in a different direction, and how do we deal with that? So yeah, that was where the initial idea came from, and then it's been a couple years in the making, and then it was 2003 really that I spent the year kind of, I'd got the story idea kind of figured out, and then I gave myself that year to get the visuals done. Um, a lot,
Wow.
just a lot of work really, um, and then had an incredible sound team jumping on afterwards. So actually, Zoe came along in the January 2024, and thankfully I just kind of got the visuals finished. That was my deadline. um, and then yeah, my composer, sound design, and sound mixer were then able to kind of put all the final touches to the film, and then here we are a little while later.
When I watch the film, it's a great lesson that our journeys, our dreams are never a straight line. And
Hmm.
even within 15 seconds of the film, the marble had this little bit of an angry look on his face, thinking that the ride to the finish line was going to be easy. And
Yeah.
it wasn't. And I loved your visuals of the facial expressions um, of the marble. Now, I know with filmmakers who do live action, they're either going to go by a storyboard or they're going to go by a shot sequence. When it comes to animation, how do you lay out the scenes?
I initially storyboarded, but then it just got so confusing because you couldn't really tell where the marble was. Like all the different parts of the run looked like the same thing, and I'd showed it to a couple of people, and they were just like, "I don't really have any idea what's happening at all." So, so that's when I was like, okay, Laura, you're a previs artist. Like, why don't we just get stuck into previs? Like, there's no point in you drawing this stuff. So then I just got it into 3D, and um, yeah, really just started, everything's grayscale. Like, it just started off as a ball, like, no expressions yet, just trying to get it all working. And I actually made the marble run kind of, at least it started physically accurate so that he could kind of roll down it. Um, and that would actually work. But then I broke it into different shots, and then you can get a bit more detail and use a bit of artistic license when it comes to how to shoot everything.
Well,
So yeah, it was that really of
well,
just drawing the facial expressions as well, rather than
well,
having them.
what were your inspirations in designing the facial expressions? Was it something like Deadpool or Spider-Man?
Um, I'd say maybe the Lego movie was a good um, was my inspiration when it came to the expressions, because you have these like moving characters, but then their faces just kind of pop between different facial expressions, but you completely get what they're doing, so and what they're thinking. So I wanted this like very fluid world, but obviously the marble himself, his emotions just change on a whim, and he's yeah, he just feels a bit different in that way.
Yeah, when the marble fell into the stems of the plant, he saw
Yeah.
how and I loved it because there was a slight little pause and he saw how the raindrops just rolled off the leaves. And I interpreted that as sometimes the little things in life are the things that help us to learn, which lead us to where we want to go. And I saw that in the marble in that scene.
Yeah, I love that you saw that, because that was definitely in my thinking. They're like the inspiration for him, like slowing down, learning to love where he is. Um, I guess it's like about being in the moment rather than just like rushing through things, which is something I'm no master of that yet. I'm still constantly learning that, and I think so many times in the film as well, I was just like, I just want to get this done. Just like so meta.
Well, it's such a it was such a beautiful, enlightening, and joyful film to watch. And I watched it a few times, and I was so shocked that the film itself was only 2 minutes and 20 seconds long. Because, but what's weird is that it didn't go by. It didn't feel like it went by quickly, because you're paying attention to the marble because of his facial expressions are giving us the is giving the feeling of his emotion. And so
Mm.
we're grabbing that. But I found so many life lessons by watching Lost Marble that I had to write a few of them down. Like, one is life isn't easy. Our hopes, our dreams and plans never follow a straight line. We can learn from others, like the marble, learn from the raindrops. And in life, well, we get second chances.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Um, that's a great summary of it. Yeah, it's definitely things that I've been mulling over in the last few years, and it's just such a joy to be able to bring them to screen and to be able to share it with like a wide audience. And I think a lot of those things that you mentioned as well, like children won't necessarily get them, and like it's great that parents can, who are watching it with them, or whoever in the family. Um, but also, I really hope that those things kind of stick with children, like when they're growing up and when they were at school and they start getting pressure to be getting good grades, and, all the things that come as you grow up.
Well, Laura, I mean, I could literally rave about your film all day because I absolutely loved it. But you have to tell me about the animation because, you know, when animators are going to create like a short film, um, it's of course we know it starts with a story, but where did the idea come from for the look of the film? I mean, what were your inspirations behind that?
Yeah, I guess it kind of started with what I didn't want, because I didn't want to go realistic. I knew that. I wanted to find something graphic so that if anyone, clicked onto it or stopped any frame in the middle, they could be like, oh, yeah, that's that film. That's Lost Marble. Like, that's the style of Lost Marble. I didn't want it to be like something that you could mistake for something different. So I was doing a bit of concept development, trying to do some just stills of like what it might look like. And I drew a painting where the reflections, rather than being like realistic and rather than reflecting everything around, they were actually just gradients. So, hey, sweetie, sorry.
No, it's all good.
So just using the gradients for a to describe the reflection is like a very simple graphic way of doing it. But I realized that if I use gradients kind of throughout, in the marble run and in the backgrounds, then that was going to be something that really made it look different, and it was able to look like reflections but wasn't feeling like realistic. And then there's also like layers of kind of like more like painterly strokes. So just kind of, if you were painting a reflection for a concept piece, you might just do like a painterly line. So I brought in lots of different painterly lines at different parts of the stories to kind of show, if you hit something, there's a little clank and there'll be like a little like reverberation visualized. So adding those different layers on top of the 3D was really what makes it look a bit different, and um, gives you that graphic style while still getting the like dynamism and the um, compositions and the movement that you get from 3D.
Well, I loved the color palette that you chose.
Well, thank you.
It's it's almost like it's almost like watercolor, but then it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the contrast between the red tones and I guess you would call them the blues or the greens or the teals that are
Yeah.
in this. But one of the things that impresses me so much when it comes to artists is how they create the look of glass or translucent in animation. Is that difficult to achieve?
Well, I was using lots of different layers. So I was using 3D software, and so I would get a pass where it gives me the reflections, but then I'd also have different layers that I was then like when I was compositing, it was almost like painting rather than compositing in a way, because I'd bring in it was more like how I would approach something in Photoshop, like bringing in different layers and maybe just assigning one color to a whole bush rather than having all the different layered levels of value. And maybe in the background it was like, oh, it's just too much to have that other plant there or that part of the marble run there, like let's just lose it. So I guess like what you were saying with watercolors, there's often times where if someone's painting, they'll be like, okay, I only want you to look at this part right now, so I want that to be the highest contrast, I want that to have the most detail, and then anything else, like we don't need that detail there because it's not important. So that was something that I was doing frame by frame, thinking about the composition so that we're just looking at the important stuff, but that anything else, we could just disappear it or we could flatten it so it's just one color. And then hopefully that makes the reflections on the marble and the reflections on the run, like where we do need to see them, kind of pop out a bit more as
Yeah,
well.
I was impressed with the fact that when you had the marble start rolling, because I was looking at it like you're seeing the motion of the marble roll. The marble, the marble reminds me of the marbles we had when we were a kid, where you would
Mhm.
get the clear glass marble, but it would have that little wavy color on the
Yeah.
inside. So it was either like you'd get one where it may be one color, or you'd get one where it had the two color. So the marble reminded me of that.
Oh, good. Yeah, that was. I've actually got those marbles up in one of these tins somewhere that are like those, and the design started like that, like more of the obvious wave. But then like I started thinking about him as a character and how he'd move and how we could kind of empathize with him better, and the wavy bit was just kept getting distracting. So I made it a bit like more of just like a solid, well, not a solid shape in the middle, but a bit more of a uniform shape in the middle, so that he could kind of decide also like where he would go a little bit. So obviously he's most of the way through just dealing with gravity, and that's taking him and moving him in a certain direction. But I thought of him a little bit like someone in a Zorb. I don't know if you've seen those big inflatable balls before, where you can get inside it and you can roll it around. So if it's going down a hill, like you don't really have much option to like other than like going down the hill as well. And if you're not looking, then you could get taken like rolling with it too. But also, if you are thinking about it, you do have a bit of ability to move it left or right, or try and get back up the hill. So I was trying to treat the marble like that, where he's in like a glass ball, but he does have a bit of ability to move it around from the inside.
I love that because when I was watching it over and over again, um, I noticed where there's this in the beginning, there's this feeling of hope. Then there's the feeling of frustration. There's the feeling of, oh my goodness, I'm stuck. But then there's victory. And then there was, and it's really funny, then there is sadness
Mm-hmm.
in the victory because it's like you were so excited to finally reach your goal. Then it's like, now what?
Mm.
And then you see the hand reach down, and I just thought the whole concept was absolutely fantastic. But you have to tell me about the music score because that
Yeah.
was half the film, bringing everything to life.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Harrison J. Wood, who did the music, just did an incredible job. And um, yeah, it was just beautiful to see the different iterations and to be working on working on that. And like you said, it's more than I remember being studying animation, and the professor said, "So by the way, guys, just to tell you that the music and the sound is like 60% of the work." Like, so we're all there being these animators, being like, "Okay, great. So we got like 40% of the work." But I totally see it now. It's so important to get the sound and the music working. And my hope with it as well was that the sound effects and the music would really just like work together, so that it's almost like Mickey Mousing in a way, that when he like rolls down the steps and it's like boom boom boom, those sounds are all in the score. So there's so much crossover, and the team did an incredible job of like working together in that way and bouncing ideas off of each other, or.
Now, did you have to bring forth a completed film without the music for the composer to create the music?
Yeah, yeah. We actually, ideally, like, I think it would have been good to start earlier talking between each other, but it just didn't work out that way. I Yeah, I was working with another composer, or had spoken to another composer earlier on, who was actually, like I could meet with in person because he was in England as well. And it just didn't happen that he was able to have the time when it came to actually making it. And so I got in touch with Harrison, and it was just a really great match, and he was able to jump on it straight away. So by then I did have pretty much the finished film. Maybe it wasn't graded yet, um, but yeah, I think for composers it is nice to kind of have that final draft, even though obviously it would be nicer to have conversations earlier. But at least then he was able to just get stuck in and not have to worry about shifting stuff afterwards.
Well, what was it like for you that once you saw the film with the music added, what did you think of the whole thing when it was finished?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a proper film then, not just like something that I'm imagining. And I think having that input from other people as well, because I'm not going to lie, I did have some help on the visuals as well. Um, but I knew with the visuals that I could kind of like, um, if I needed to, I'd be able to like sort those. And then but I was like, obviously really grateful to have some friends jumping on board, but I wanted to make sure that they weren't under pressure to kind of like, get things done because it's in their spare time. But then when it came to the sound and the music, as much as I love all of that, and in another life maybe I'd study sound and music, but that's not for me. And it was just so good to hand it over to people that I could really trust and see what they did with it and just bring it to the next level. Like it is a bit scary, I guess, giving over something that you've put so much work into. But I think it was a really great lesson in trust for me as well, to be able to give it to people and then just see how they really took it to the next level and enhance the storytelling.
I love it. Now, I know that you are an official selection at Holly Shorts Film Festival this year. Uh, is that where you made your premiere, or has Lost Marble been seen at another festival prior to Holly Shorts?
Yeah, it was actually shown at BAM Kids in Brooklyn earlier this year. So that was its official US premiere. And then I think Cinema in Portugal is going to be the European premiere. So yeah, that'll be a month or so's time.
So, what do you hope audiences will take away from seeing the film?
Mm, um, I hope that it brings up good conversations, like that people are questioning what happened, like what the marble was thinking, why he did certain things, like how that resonates with people, like um, especially especially because people of all ages can take different things from it. I think having conversations about it will just be really fun. I'm sad I don't get to hear them all, but you get to hear bits and pieces, and it's nice to hear when it resonates with different people. And also children are the best because they're so honest. So it was quite fun showing it to the children throughout the process and hearing their feedback, or just like why, or like I don't get it. But they're the greatest critics in a way because they don't really have a filter.
Yeah, it's what a wonderful film. And ladies and gentlemen, Laura Quinn Geyer's 2 minute and 20-second animated short film Lost Marble is such a delight to watch that you want to watch it over and over again. And as the log line says, I love to go with the flow as long as the flow goes directly to the finish line. Thanks to Marble upon starting their first ever Marble run. But when has life ever been a smooth ride? See, this film is a big film in so many ways, and I see so many life lessons in this film that both children and adults will take something positive from it, and we need more positivity in our lives, and animation, well, it's the perfect medium to put a smile on our faces. I want to see this film get Oscar qualified because I think it deserves it to be so, because it again is a wonderful film and every audience member will fall in love with it. And Laura, I want to thank you so much today for sharing this wonderful animated film with me today.
Thank you for talking to me. It's been an honor.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. And much luck to you on the film festival run with Lost Marble. And ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the Bond on Cinema interviews at bondoncinema.com. Check out our Prime show, our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Audible, and more. And remember, you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.